This is the 2016 Motion EVO Snow 29 Pro, and the Pro designates a 48 volt battery pack. Okay, in 2015, another version of this bike came out and it just had the 36 volt 11.6 amp hour battery pack. So you actually get 50 more watt hours with this pack. It's slightly heavier, about half a pound. The bike ends up weighing about the same, which was surprising to me. And maybe that's because, you know, maybe just the variation in scales or something. I mean, I've tried to be precise. This one appears to have 2 front sprockets, and I believe the other one that I reviewed had 3. And so that might be them sort of saying, okay, well, this one's more powerful. Maybe you don't need the same gear range, or maybe they got some feedback about the gears, or maybe I'm mistaken, but I looked pretty close when I was reviewing that one, and that was surprising. I also think that the front derailleur on the last one was Dior. This one's SLX, and maybe that one didn't have the hollow spindle like this one. So they look very, very similar. The colors and everything, kind of a matte black, and then there's a little bit of a gunmetal, kind of a metallic paint, and then this neon yellow highlight. Dior XT in the rear, awesome group set right there, and just a nice big cluster, 10 gears. So this is 20 speed bike, and it looks like it goes 11 to 36, so you have a pretty good range there. They upgrade the spokes in the back, so those are 13 gauge versus 14 in the front, a little bit heavier duty than, and actually maybe because this one's front and rear, I may be mistaken, these might be both be 13. I love that they've painted them black. I love that the hubs themselves are black. This one's 250 watt up front, geared from Dapu. The one in the back is 350 watt, also geared from Dapu. A little bit larger diameter, as you can see there. This is more akin to some of the Neo bikes that we saw in 2014, 2015. And by using 2 of them versus having one big 500 watt rear motor, I think they're able to achieve just better traction. And I've been seeking out a good place to like see what that's actually like. These pretty big stones, you know, just like standard rocks, and they're pretty sharp and kind of angular, and there's definitely play like when you ride a bike in them. And so taking something like this that has all-wheel drive effectively, it really puts it to the test. And I was surprised at how well the 2-wheel drive did perform. At first I was like, is this just kind of gimmicky? I mean, is it going to drain the battery a lot faster? What's the deal? But a lot of times if you're pushing the bike from the back and just pushing, you kind of, you know, you kind of end up sliding out the front a little bit easier. Whereas this sort of helps pull you along. And there are some settings in the display panel that actually allow you to choose just front wheel drive if you want, and then you can pedal, and that's still kind of a 2-wheel drive experience, but I've enjoyed doing all-wheel drive. I love that on both axles they've got these proprietary quick release. It kind of springs out and you can kind of crank it and tighten it, so if you need to do trail maintenance you can. They've got Schwalbe Rapid Rob tires, 29ers by 2.25, so a little bit wider. Easy Motion does also have a 2-wheel drive fat bike that's really cool as well. I'm going to try to review that, but this is handled well. You know, it's a little bit more nimble. The fat tires add some weight, they slow you down, whereas this is, I think, maybe better for trails and everyday riding. If you sometimes go in the snow, sometimes go off-road, you know, this is for $32.99. You're only spending a couple $100 more than if you just got like a 29er or whatever, one of the other options from Easy Motion. So I love that. And I also like it how well they've integrated the wires. You can see they go through the tubing and everything across the bike. So they've done a pretty good job. Low-rise handlebar, extra long. Sometimes I've complained in the past that they were a little narrow and it didn't feel like real mountain biking gear. Locking grips, hydraulic disc brakes, 180 in the front, 160 millimeter in the rear. Shimano Dior crank arms. Yeah, it's a good thing. 31.6 millimeter diameter on that seat post. So if you did want to get a thud buster, kind of make this more of a full suspension feel, or maybe a body float, you totally could. I think that's a good overview. I might cut and just show you how the display panel works and talk about some of the other options. So I'm inside charging. I thought this would be the perfect time to go through the display panel. It's the same for all of the Easy Motion bikes that use kind of the proprietary downtube and hub motor design, not the Bosch bikes, and this is only for 2014, 2015, 2016. So if we look at this display panel, you know, it's nice that you can remove it. First of all, you can pop it off like that, carry it around with you. And if you upgrade to this little Bluetooth module, you can pop that in, sync it with your phone, and then use your phone as a display. And it's got GPS, route guidance, and in fact, I might cut to that and just show you what those features are. So I'm borrowing a phone and I'm inside so you can see the screen a little bit better, but if we launch the BH Premium app, this is where you can adjust your settings. You've got a user profile, which includes all of your information, like your name, if you want, your weight, your height, your age, that kind of thing. You can switch between units too, which is neat, kind of metric or imperial. Bike profile, which is very cool. I mean, they go from wheel size, crank length, battery capacity, sensor connection, like the TMM4 torque sensing, and even like locate my bike settings. So you'll need that if you upgrade for like the theft prevention. For $249, it mounts kind of at the base of the battery interface. It's very cool because then it's locked in physically by the battery and it allows you to track it down. In addition to that $249 accessory, you still need to get like a SIM card, and it seems like most SIM cards would work. I think they're like $15, kind of like you'd use for a cell phone, but apparently it's not like a subscription service, or at least that's not the information I got. And then connections, status, system diagnostic, it can kind of go through and troubleshoot. So that's the background for setup. And then ride is really where it's at. This is like the GPS enabled feature. Manual is just, hey, I want to go here, and it's a map and it tells you, just like Google Maps or Waze or any of those. Automatic is kind of another level of cool. It basically senses how much battery you have, how much you're using, and it automatically adjusts so that you can arrive without running out of juice. I really like that. I think that's cool. And then automatic is also very cool. BH, it's this company that's been around since 1909, and they make a lot of fitness equipment. It's not just bicycles or electric bikes. And one of the areas that they also would do a lot of products in is exercise equipment, and some of those have heart rate monitors and different sensors and stuff. So they've integrated that really well here, where you can say, hey, I don't want to exceed 155 or 140 or whatever beats per minute. Automatically give me power when I need it. So it's like you're getting exercise, but you're not exhausting yourself. You can go out there and ride it just like it's an exercise bike, but in the real world. I think that's pretty fantastic. I think Polaris and Falco have done similar things in the past, but BH, I think that they've really mastered it with some of their exercise equipment. So to see it on this app here is just very cool. And then this is what the map looks like. You can kind of tap and do a starting point and then an ending point and change the resistance level and everything. It's a sweet app, if you take a little bit of time to dig into it, and if you get that $149 accessory. The only complaint I have on that, again, is just that then you don't really have a display. Like, this kind of becomes your display. And I feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't always want this there. There's no USB port to plug in, so your phone is going to be connected via Bluetooth. And by the way, it seems like it's ANT Plus compatible with the whole heart rate thing. But this is there now. It's a little bit big. Maybe I just want to glance over and see how fast I'm going. And what I'm looking at here might be like the GPS map thing. So I don't know. Maybe there's some refinement that could happen, but it's cool to see them introducing an app like this. Okay, so we're back at the normal display right here. I love that it comes with a little pouch, kind of keeps it from getting scuffed up. As you can see, this one might have been put face down on a table, and it's a little bit gnarly, but working pretty well. If we hold the power button, it does take a little bit longer, so just keep holding it, be patient. Kind of boots up and gives us some information about the bike. The first thing you see here is speed in miles per hour. And then over here, we've got total, distance, time, and top speed. So that's like all-time top speed, 11 miles per hour, awesome. And then we've got just this trip. So this trip, how far have we gone? How long have we been riding? And then what's our top speed? And then there's this other setting here. It's like M to go. I feel like that's a range thing, but I haven't quite figured it out. Down here we can see a battery level indicator. 3 out of 5 bars right now, about 55%. I like that they include the percentage as well. It's just a little bit more precise. And then assist level. We're at the highest right now at 100%, but we can arrow down to 70, 50, 30, or 0. And that's kind of cool because their bikes, they're designed to be more like a bicycle with more gears and just really set up to almost look like a regular bicycle too. So riding them around tends to be pretty efficient. It's nice to just use this as a cycle computer, potentially to power the lights if the model has that. Okay, so to enter the settings, what we would do is hold plus and minus for a couple seconds. Now it would let us select our wheel size. We could arrow up or arrow down. This one's a 29er actually, so I'm gonna arrow up a little bit. 29, and hit power, and it kind of locks it in. Unit, miles per hour, but of course we could go to kilometers per hour. And I'm gonna lock it in at miles. and then this snow setting. So this is kind of cool. Right now, this one, I'm looking at the EVO Snow 29 Pro, and of course we want all the wheels going all the time, and that's kind of a cool setting. It gives you some extra traction. If we arrow down, just front wheel drive, so it's going to be more efficient, maybe extend your range, but not give you quite as good of traction. And then rear, that's the 350 watt motor, and that one's going to give you just kind of the traditional ride akin to some of the older Evos and even the Neo models. So 350 watt, 250 watt on this particular model, or you can turn it just off. And this, I think this just defaults to rear wheel drive. So I think that's a little bit redundant with rear and off, seeming to do the same things, but regardless, that's what that does. So we'll lock it in, and then we can select the battery size. So it's funny, sometimes on these demo bikes, I've been seeing that says 8.7 amp hours. Sometimes it's a little bit less. You can actually find that written right on the battery pack. So if we come back over to this one, that's not on the bike, and we flip it around like this, we can see that it says 48 volts, 8.7 amp hours down here. So that's the amp hours. So we'd go back to the display and lock it in at 8.7. And now we're back to wheel size. So once you've done that, you're all set and you're like, yep, I don't want to change anything. I'm ready to kind of lock it. Hold the power button again for quite a while. And that had me concerned. I thought it was going to shut the thing off, but it doesn't. It just sort of leaves that menu. And now we're back at the main display. Oh, and this is backlit, so if you hold down, see how it comes to life like that, and you get the little icon right there? That would also activate our lights if we were riding something like this over here. Got the Evo City, it's got the built-in lights. So that's pretty nice. Nice little extra feature. So this is the Motion EVO charger. Works for any of the bikes. It's 2 amp output, which is kind of standard. I like that you can unplug the wall side if you want to, just to make it a little bit cleaner if you're packing it in your backpack, that kind of thing. It gives you a little bit of extra length as well. You can see if we follow this all the way down here, we've got the end connected that plugs right into the battery pack. So this is cool for if it's a really cold or really hot day and you want to bring the battery inside, or maybe you're charging at work. So you bring that inside, you plug it in with the charger and top it off. Really love that they've got an LED indicator on it so you can tell how full it is in case you haven't ridden for a while. It might slowly drop over time. But then if you want to, you can charge the battery right on the bike. And that's what I tend to do. I'll leave my bike, in my room. I don't tend to park it outside just because it's a little bit more sensitive with all the different components and it's kind of a high value product. So in order to do that, you disconnect the little dongle, just try not to lose that. And now this end, you can go ahead and plug directly into the bike right there on the chainstay on the left hand side. But in order to get it in, you kind of have to push it in, line it up right, and then there's this little wings on the side and you've got to tighten it down kind of like half a turn, and it kind of locks it into place. So it's cool because it feels solid once it's in. However, what I've noticed about these bikes is that if you push it back, like maybe you're trying to get it out of the way, you push it back, the crank arms kind of slowly go back, and that's what you don't want to do because it's going to break it off because it's really connected well. Same thing with the keys. A lot of the keys kind of fold and they stay mostly out of the way, but it just seems like there's a lot here that could get damaged with those crank arms. Even the kickstands, a couple times, you can see this one has some abrasions on the side of it. That's because people were moving the bikes around like this, backing it up. You can see that crank arm coming down, and then right there. So it stops the bike, but it's also potentially enough force if you really pushed it to kind of bend or break that off. So you just want to be conscious both when you're charging this about not losing that, and then also about not breaking off the key, the charging port, or the kickstand. Another really cool option that they're selling now is this neoprene sleeve. It's almost like a wetsuit material, and it's designed to keep the battery a little bit warmer, or at least protect it from the cold. So they say anytime it's below 60 degrees outside, this is going to help extend your range potentially by up to 30% just by keeping the battery a little bit warmer. And I feel like there's some caveats there. I mean, it must be like if the battery was stored inside and it's already warm, if the whole bike was stored inside and it's already warm. If you leave this in your garage and the bike is super cold overnight, like that's kind of hard on the cells, and it's already going to be cold. I don't feel like this is it's going to just insulate the cold. So I would try to keep that at sort of a neutral, cool, dry location, and then potentially get yourself one of these. It's 35 bucks, and it's just got a zipper on it, so I'll go ahead and try to mount that real quick. It's almost like a real wetsuit. Not super easy to do. Just a little bit of screwing around. It's a pretty handsome accessory. I don't think I've seen anything like this on any other electric bikes. That's cool. It's got the branding and everything. Apparently, they're pretty popular in Canada and some of the Scandinavian countries where it gets cold, and people are actually trying to make their own out of this different materials and stuff. And I haven't tested. I'm here in Southern California at the BH North America headquarters, hanging out in their ginormous storage warehouse, checking out all the new models for 2016. I just think that's cool. Wanted to call out, give you a close-up on that, and it should work with most of their models, at least the Evo models. It's not going to work with the Easy Go models because they have the little pouch-style backpack, nor will it work with the Bosch system because, as you can see, it's sort of an externally mounted battery pack. But yeah, for the other ones, that's what it looks like. Okay, I think that's about it. Again, I was weighing this earlier because of the two motors and the larger battery pack and stuff. This is about 57 pounds. You know, and the battery pack itself is like 5.9, almost 6 pounds. So you could take the battery pack off, take those wheels off with quick release, depending on the maximum weight that your car rack has. So that's kind of cool. I think we should just hop on this thing and take it for a ride around here. I like that the fork has lockout and some preload adjustment. I mean, it's not the highest end fork, but definitely gets the job done, and it's been feeling pretty plush. Feels like it's set up right for me, at least. So I'm in the highest level of assist in snow mode. I'm just gonna go down and show you what that sounds like. Pretty quiet when you're not climbing. This time, let's turn it around, scale that same hill we just came down. Going off-road. Yeah, the front's not sliding out like it would, you know, if I was just being pushed forward. Being able to do this one-handed is pretty impressive. Again, I think this one's just a little bit too steep, especially one-handed, but you know, we made it a fair way up. That was awesome. So I'm in the highest level of assist. I'm gonna try to climb that steep part right now. It's helping, but I was losing traction on the front just because it is so steep. I might push it up a little ways to try again. There we go. Yeah, I can definitely feel it pulling me. You know, there's just a lot of loose rocks here, but it's definitely helping. This would be a lot harder without that all-wheel drive. Sweet. Yeah, oh man. It's still very zippy, you know, you get up to that 20 mile per hour point pretty quick if you're pedaling hard. Let's take some regular dirt. See it spinning in the air there. Still sliding a lot, but I definitely feel more control with the all-wheel. And as with many of the Easy Motion e-bikes with the torque sensor, there's a little bit of delay when I stop pedaling. I think they do that just to prevent surge, which would be the feeling of acceleration and deceleration based on that being so responsive. You do have motor inhibitors on the brake levers, so when you activate those, it cuts power, but there's still even a little bit of delay there too. Well, if I had the key to just one of those locks, we could go explore this place probably. Warning, mountain lion risk. Mountain lions may be present and are unpredictable. Be cautious. They have been known to attack without warning. Your safety cannot be guaranteed. You're advised to stay alert. Got it. Definitely impressed with the motor power on this thing and just how it kind of pulls and pushes at the same time. That's the idea. All-wheel drive, like a Subaru WRX, or, you know, an SUV or something like that. I haven't had a chance to try this in the snow, but I hope the rocks give you some ideas. For the full write-up on this EVO Snow 29er Pro and the more basic EVO 29 Snow, I guess, you know, head back to ElectricBikeReview.com. I welcome you to chime in if you have either one of these and what the differences are. I've noticed that this one is more powerful. Like, yes, the motors are rated at the same level, but I think the controller is sending more amperage. The 48 volt versus 36, like, not only should you be getting maybe a little bit better range on this, depending on how you ride it, but you definitely feel the power. It feels a lot more zippy. Easy Motion uses that torque sensor down there, TMM4, so you do have to pedal actively. There's no throttle on this, so that makes it like a class 1 electric bike. You can ride on more trails and in more places. I still think it blends in nicely because the hubs are so small and the battery pack is just so refined like that. But yeah, that's some of the trade-offs. I think going from 2015 to 2016, a lot of people are like, oh, they dropped the throttle, and sometimes that's kind of nice. But yeah, I feel like they've made some decent decisions here. It's a fun bike to ride. Ride safe.